Okay, sorry about that. So, like I said, in Uganda, it is common that people breed what would have been for slaughter. And the reason is that there is a limited access to quality genetics in the country. So using a market pig for reproduction is sometimes more better, because whatever that is in saturation, whatever that makes up our national pig herd is of undefined performance. So you can't invest money in genetics whose performance you can't define. It's only good, or it's only better that you invest money in genetics with definable performance parameters, because with it, you can tell how and when you can get back the money you are investing. So, like I said, on the first farm, you have two lines of breeding taking place. The first one is what we call the pure breeding, where the farmer is crossing the pure breeds to produce hybrids. Sorry, we call it hybridization, not pure breeding. We call it hybridization. There is one that we missed up, which is not very common, the one that we call pure breeding, where some farmers who keep these pure lines also try to produce replacement stock for the pure lines. For example, you have you breed a pure landless with a pure landless, or a pure Yorkshire with a pure Yorkshire. So we call that pure breeding, but you know, we might not need to look at that at the moment. These two options are the most common in African farms. So here you produce the first generation, and the first generation goat, which is a hybrid of landless and Yorkshire, is crossed with a boar to produce pigs for slaughter. Okay, this is also a very uncommon option here in Africa, but not only Africa, and even other countries, because sometimes access to pure lines is not cheap. For those who have interacted with us about importing the grandparent lines from Choice Genetics, I know you understand what I'm talking about. It is quite expensive to own these grandparent lines. So because it is expensive, some farmers decide to purchase their parent units from outside the farm, like in option 2. Option 2 is the most common. Option 2 is the most common among farms in Africa, where the producer outside go to a breeder, buy their parent goods, F1, and buy terminal boars, cross the two, terminal cross, which is the market pig, and take the pig to market. So whenever they want to do replacements, when the parent sows get worn out, they will have to go back to the breeder to buy their replacement goods. These ones don't go back to the breeder to buy replacement goods. They produce their own replacement goods on farm. The parent goods are produced internally. So there is no issue of going to the breeder to import in or bring in F1. They would have the capacity to produce their own farm. What I'm showing you here might not represent what you see in your locality among the producers near your farm or in your community. What I'm showing you is the ideal or the correct systems of dealing with commercial pig farming. So of course, there are other issues, there are other ways that farmers do their things, and I will not say that they are not correct, but what I'm explaining now leads us to products of definable performance, products whose performance parameters we can correctly sorry about that. My co-host had issues and was trying to borrow from here. Welcome back, Walter. Okay. So I was saying that there are different ways that farmers here in Uganda, the East African region, and elsewhere in Africa do their farming. And I'm not saying that you're doing incorrect things, but what I'm about here, I'm trying to project the collective way of doing things. And the collective way in commercial pig farming must come up with products whose performance parameters are definable. For example, if you buy these F1 goods, okay, you must be aware of its performance. Okay. Performance in terms of
excuse me, Chris.
Yes, please.
I would request that there's some bit of intermittency in the streaming. If you could first turn off your video and we see what happens, but you leave the presentation going on. The streaming is a little bit, I think it's a bit of congestion in the line. Yes, we can proceed, please. Thank you.
Okay. Much about that. Sorry, I've been seeing messages in the chat, but haven't. Oh, I see. Sorry, I've been seeing messages in the chat, but haven't. Okay, hope it is better now. I just play. It is better. I think it is not better. What we can do, I can change the speaker, maybe. The microphone.
Maybe you can change the speaker, yes?
Yeah, let me try to change. Please pardon us about that. Let's try to correct the streaming. I'm not sure if I'm any better.
Yes, we can now hear you. Yes, better. Thank you. That's a lot better.
Now I have to deal with the echo.
Yes, it's off now.
Yep.
Great.
Good. Yeah. Technology sometimes. Okay. Yeah, let me hope we are a little more better now than we were.
Yeah, way better now.
Great. Okay. Yes, sorry about that interference. Technology is sometimes like that, but glad to know that we are better now. And we will proceed with our session. Okay, I was trying to make sure that I can as well access my friends who are live streaming from Facebook, and I'm now ready to go. Okay, so like I was saying, it is common that what I'm talking about here is different from what you see in your community, but you have to just understand that what I'm presenting to you is the right way of doing things. Because in commercial pig farming, or pig farming where you invest money, you want to make sure that your resources are not wasted. So you need to keep animals of definable performance. I'm not very certain whether you didn't miss anything with the glitches that we had in the network. So if there was nothing missed, I'll proceed. But if there is anything that you missed, Walter, I'll request you to let me know, and I'll repeat. But if everything is okay, I can proceed to the next slide.
Since we hadn't gone that far, I think you can proceed.
Okay, please. Okay, so in summary, we have a producer who has 2 lines of breeding and a producer who doesn't have pure lines, and so he has only 1 line of breeding, and he has to source for his replacement gilts all parent stock from outside the farm. So those are the 2 breeding, I would say, processes or options that pig farmers can have on their farms. Though there are those that we didn't talk about. These, what we talked about are the most common. Okay. So before you can do proper breeding, you must understand management of your breeding herd. If a breeding herd is not properly managed, it is very hard for it to be highly, performant. It cannot give you the results that you need. So collect all proper management of your breeding herd is quite very, very important. And when I talk about the breeding herd, definitely I mean the reproductive herd. I think for those who have been following these teachings, again, you can differentiate between the reproductive herd and the commercial herd. The reproductive herd is simply the production engine of the farm. It is the herd that produces the pigs that you get money from on the farm. So the reproductive herd or breeding herd, we definitely be talking about the same thing. So on the reproductive herd, we have the gilts, Gilts are younger female pigs. We have the sows. Sows are active female pigs, active meaning they are reproductively performing. And we have boars. Boars are male pigs. And in this case, we have what we call the AI boars, we have what we call the natural insemination boars, and we have what we call the teaser boars. We will be coming back to that and try to understand it in detail. So on the gilts, it's better to select your gilts for breeding at between 20 to 24 weeks of age. There are several reasons why this is very important. And one of them is that the animal has matured enough for you to collectively tell the features of a good mother in it. The animal has matured enough and you can easily tell the features of a quality mother, from them. The features are evident, other than the piglets. For example, the number of teats on this pig. If a sow has more inverted teats, even though it littered very many piglets, feeding them or looking after them until weaning will be very difficult. So you have to choose a gilt that has a well layout of teats. And that's why the best time for you to do this should be around 20 to 24 weeks. If you want to do it soon, then you should not go below 16 weeks. So not all pigs that are produced are really good for reproduction, for keeping as sows. Before you select these pigs, there must be indicators to show you that this gilt will make a good sow in the future. And if you don't select gilts at such an age, it is very difficult for you to see those features. Another very important reason why you have to select grown-up gilts is that they have been growing and you've been observing their weight gain, their feed conversion, because these traits are very important. The sow or the hybrid in the sow contributes 50% of the genetics in the commercial pig. So in one way or the other, even though each of the breeds in the sow, in the commercial pig, contributes 25%. Okay, what I'm trying to mean is that when you cross these two pigs and you get this first generation pig, it is 50% the genetics of B and 50% the genetics of A. Okay, so when you cross it again with the terminal boa, the genetics of A lowers to 25%, and the genetics of B also lowers to 25%. So this marketed pig is 25% the genetics of A and 25% the genetics of B, then 50% the genetics of the terminal boa. So this means that even these mother breeds have a contribution in the commercial performance of these pigs for slaughter. So it is very important that you select a pig that qualifies that meets your requirements in quick growth and feed conversion. You don't need to use a lot of feed to grow this particular pig. Hope I'm understood on that. You have to transfer this gilt to gilt rearing diets. It is a common practice among many pig farmers to continue giving the finisher diet to these gilts that are intended for breeding. But the requirements for these animals are a little different from the requirements of a pig that you're taking for slaughter. You want to feed this pig to build enough fat covers, okay? And so it must be given a special diet. You want it to attain the insemination weight as soon as possible. And this is between the 30th and 32nd week. So you must transfer these gilts from the finisher diet to the gilt rearing diets. For those who are using the new science concentrates, I think this is something that you properly understand. Walter, please remove Lenovo tab. Let's not give these guys a chance to disturb us. Lenovo tab is writing in the presentation. Let him go out. Yeah. Let's not give them a chance. Thank you very much. Okay, we will not give chance to anybody who writes in the presentation. We are not here to joke. We're on serious business, and we will not entertain jokers. Thank you very much. So for those who are using or who have been using the new science concentrates, I guess you understand what I mean when I talk about gilt rearing diets. So for those who can't access these formulations, of course, you have to define a correct formula for, you have to ask your nutritionist to define a correct formula for your gilts that are intended for reproduction or intended for making up your so hard. If you bought these gilts at a tender age, it is better that when you receive them on your farm, you transfer them to the gilt rearing diet at around 20 to 24 weeks of age. 20 weeks is always the best time for you to transfer them to gilt rearing diets. So again, you have flashing. Flashing is technically increasing the energy level of these gilts to enable them grow as faster as possible and to as well assist in ovulation. Because once well fed and once of a good body size, chances of ovulating and giving many eggs are very high. So you got to do flashing, and usually this is embedded in the formula for gilt rearing. So for those who are using gilt rearing diets, you might not even need to increase the levels, the amount of feed, too much, because we usually say 0.7 to 1 kilograms in addition to the 3 kilograms that you give this gilt on a daily basis. But when you have a collective formula where these issues are well covered, you don't need to so much worry about that. It would have been covered in the formula. So if you don't do this, it is very difficult for you to achieve correct insemination weights, like getting 130 to 150 kilograms of live body weight becomes very difficult. You have to inseminate by weight and not by age. It has been a common practice for a long time in our traditional production systems that we have to wait until a pig is 8 months to have it inseminated. And some people would even miss the insemination at 8 months and end up inseminating at 9 or 10 months. So this is not the correct thing to do with modern genetics. If you're dealing with modern genetics, it is better to consider weight more than age. So inseminate your gilt as soon as it attains the weight that is recommended by your genetic supplier. And this is usually between 130 kilograms to 150 kilograms. You should refrain yourself from inseminating underweight goats. Inseminating underweight goats is very is risky to your farm, because you will not have these goats stay on your farm for a long period of time. They will lose vigor very quickly, and you have higher chances of receiving very small litter sizes. So these are issues that you must take very important. Do not inseminate underweight goats. Grow them until an ideal weight for insemination. So I guess we now understand about managing goats. And like I said, goats are young females that are not yet reproductively active. So we go to sows. Maybe you started with the goats and now they are grown up, they are reproductively active, and they are sows now. So with the sows, you have to give right diets and right rations. Right diets, I mean that a sow receives or must consume different types of feeds at different production stages. Sows undergo different production stages, including the time when they wean off their piglets, when we call them the dry sows. A sow that is neither pregnant or lactating is a dry sow. So in that stage, at that stage, this sow must be given the dry sow meal. The dry sow meal is very helpful. And for those who are using the nuisance concentrates, you can agree with me that we use the same formula for making dry sow meal and goat rearing meal. The reason in this is that you're helping this sow recover from the stress of lactation. You want it to rebuild itself and then be able to come back on heat as soon as possible, like we'll be seeing later, because you expect the sow to come back to heat at least 3 to 5 days on average after it has weaned off its young ones. Like we will be looking at that in detail in the course of the presentation. So you have to give right rations. The ration is the daily amount of feed that you give to the pig. The amount of feed that you give to this pig on a daily basis is its ration. Okay, so you have to give right rations, and like you may know, I already talked about feeding during early stages of gestation. If you give excessive energy, you're likely to interfere with the hormones that assist with the implantation of these fertilized eggs. And therefore, you end up having smaller litter sizes or having these goats coming back on heat again. So it is important that you give right rations during early stages of gestation. And you should as well give right rations during lactation, because the pig is overstressed. It is feeding the young ones, but it is also trying hard to maintain its body as well. So it needs energy, all nutrients to cover for its body needs, and it also needs nutrients to cover to help in the production of milk for its young ones. So you should take both, very important. And during lactation, we increase the amount of feed, but also the formula that you use to mix your lactating sow diet must put that in consideration. So ensure good temperature and hygiene. Where temperatures are very high, usually feed consumption goes lower and the sow becomes very uncomfortable. And sometimes if the temperatures are very high, even death can be experienced. This is very common in large farms. And sometimes it is not only temperature, but also other issues that lead to that discomfort this sow may lead to its death. And as you may know, it is very expensive to acquire correct genetics, and you don't want to just lose it. Hygiene should also be proper. Without proper hygiene, in fact, for all the pigs that you keep on farm, hygiene is very important, because without it, disease outbreaks will be inevitable. So that is the second type of animal that makes up the reproductive herd or the breeding herd. Now let's look at boas. So from boas, we have the AI boas. The AI boas are artificial insemination boas, boas that are kept for semen collection. So they are not kept for natural service, but used for semen collection. These boas are trained in a particular way, and they are trained to mount the demersal, and they okay with the process of semen collection. So they are oriented, they are trained on how to give their semen whenever it is required by the owner. And this is a process. So those are AI boas, and they are on a bow stud. But even the farmers who keep very many pigs do not usually use boas, do not usually use natural insemination. They use artificial insemination. So they keep AI boas, boas that are not necessarily for natural insemination, but for semen collection, for them to serve their herd. And we have the natural insemination boas, like maybe the boa we are seeing in the picture, boas kept for mounting, most especially in small farms, where somebody has a few sows and they need to have these sows inseminated naturally. So somebody may keep a boa to just do natural mating. And we have what we call the teaser boas. For the teaser boas, we do not mind about the genetics. Their role is to tease these sows or gilts, either by helping during artificial insemination, or inducing heat, the natural heat induction, most especially in gilts. We will be looking at that, expounding that later in the presentation. So for the boas, you're feeding for maintenance, and this is very important. I visit some farmers, and somebody tells you that, gets very proud when showing you their heavy boas. Somebody shows you a boa which is almost 250 kilograms live weight, and is very proud. This is a very good boa, and saying that it is very heavy. There is nothing to be proud about in such boas, because one, they cannot efficiently do the natural mating, properly, because it is too heavy. It will injure your gilts, your sows. So you must feed a boa for body maintenance. You must look at its body condition. If it is getting too big, you have to cut the amount of feed that you give it on a daily basis. And if it is getting too smaller, you beef up you increase the ration, the amount of food that you give it on a daily basis. But don't feed it for purposes of becoming too huge. It is very common that as the boa grows, as the boa ages, it increases in size. This is very common. So you have to manage that because you are aware it happens. So you have to manage it so that the increase in weight is matching the requirements for proper mating. Please do not use very old boas or too young boas. If you use too old boas, you'll have issues with conception, and you'll have many of your sows or gilts come back in heat again. It cross cuts for both natural mating and artificial insemination. The both studies already understand this. You should not collect semen from boas that are too old. If you got a chance to enter a semen processing laboratory, you'll find out that semen collected from too old boas has a low sperm count, and usually it is the semen with sperms that have issues in their morphology. So too old boas are goes on both in artificial insemination and natural mating. You should not use them for natural mating, and as well, you should not use them as AI boas. Too young also is bad because this boa has not matured well, and so it might not even make a pig conceive. So you should not use too young boas as well. I think I should also comment on the sourcing of the boas. Even today, either today or yesterday, I don't remember exactly, people call me asking me to find, let's say, male pigs for them. I think there is something that we miss, and this is a challenge to people who are using modern feeding technologies. You know, I always sympathize with people who buy feeds. You use money to buy these feeds. And since you use money, you want to have this money recovered out of these pigs. And sometimes, like yesterday or today, I read a comment from a friend of mine on Facebook saying that, you know what, Chris, these feeds are extra expensive. And a farmer cannot easily make money when they sell the pig. Yes, this can happen, but in scenarios where the feeds are not put to proper use. If you give good feeds to a pig of poor genetics, it will be very difficult for this pig to return the value that you've given to it. It will consume the feed. Yes, it is of good quality, but it will not be able to return the value that it is feeding on. So for everybody who buys feeds, it is important that you try to also look for proper genetics. When you're buying a boa, be very careful, because we use boas mainly for producing our commercial stock. And I hope this is the reason why somebody would source for the boa. If you're not doing your own replacement stock, then you need a boa for producing commercial stock, for producing pigs for slaughter. Okay, and therefore you have to look for collect boa. If you can't access a collect boa for this purpose, please use artificial insemination. Use artificial insemination. We are struggling to have semen imported into the country. But also there are some farms that have, some boas, they are selling semen that is way better than any boa that you will get from the market here. Okay, I would say that the semen we get from choice is highly superior, but there is also, Walter, I don't know whether you're seeing this gentleman who is again writing in the presentation. I can't see the name, unfortunately. But
let me try and
case,
look out for that. Let me see. I could see the mess.
Yeah, better to.
Okay, in the meantime, you can proceed. Let me see.
Okay, please. Okay, so we have to work with such people. Okay. Okay. I think to avoid this disturbance, I'll do this just shortly. And just sorry about that. I think some people misuse the fact that we have these sessions free of charge. So since they are free of charge, maybe we get unserious people join us, but they will not deter us from doing what is right. I request you, please don't play in the presentation. It makes no sense. And if we get to know you, you will never attend any of our coaching sessions. This will be the last one for you. So don't play in the presentation. Okay, so I was saying that try to look for proper commercial boas for your farm. If you don't look for proper commercial boas and you're producing pork, the use of proper nutrition will not pay off. Most of the people complaining about usually, commonly, cost of feed are people who are doing good feeding on poor genetics. So try as much as you can to improve the genetics, improve the management, give proper nutrition, and then blame me if the results are not good. So once the nutritional products you're using can be trusted, then you have a question with your genetics. I've been slaughtering pigs and seen some are highly fatty. They are very fatty. And this is a pig raised by somebody who has invested money, and then they can't get good commercial value out of these animals. This is not good for you. So instead of wasting your money, try to work with proper genetics. There are people who import boas and you end up importing teaser boas. Please be very, very careful. Be careful. A terminal boa is a boa selected from the commercial herd is no good. Is not that good. So you need a boa that is typically made for giving you commercial value in terms of quick growth, in terms of high muscling abilities, and in terms of high feed conversion ratios. So hope that is also understood. Okay, so I guess we've really gotten a good chance to understand the details in how to properly manage our reproductive pigs or breeding pigs. And now let's go into puberty, looking at puberty in pigs. We are now starting the journey to breeding. And here we go. So when we look at puberty, of course, we have a section of males and a section of females. With the females, of course, we have the goats, the Moala pig. The guilts are usually into puberty at around 160 to 170 days. This is basically around 24 to something weeks. And boas are in puberty at around 28 weeks. But you don't use them immediately. So when they attain puberty, they are not fit for reproduction until they are mature enough. So make sure that they are mature enough before you can use them for reproduction. For my friends on Facebook, somebody's asking on how to join the Zoom meeting. You look through the previous posts on the page. You will see the poster with the meeting access details, and we still have space. I think you can be able to join us.
Chris, your mic settings. Use device audio.
I beg your pardon, Walter?
Yes, we can now get you. We're hearing the echo. I think you are disabled the device audio, but it's okay now. You may proceed, please.
Okay, please. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you very much, Walter. So we have the guilts and the boas. So puberty in guilts happens at around 160 to 170 days. But this is the average, and it doesn't mean that there are no guilts that come into heat at an earlier stage. Some can come in heat at an earlier stage. And this also depends on genetics. Different genetic suppliers give you different dates for their guilts puberty age. And for boas, it is 28 weeks. Okay, so we come to a very, very important section, and this is estrus induction. We can simply call estrus, we can call it heat, the heat period. We can simply call it the heat period. So the heat period in pigs can be induced. And inducing heat in pigs, in guilts, is very, very important. Because sometimes you don't know when this particular guilt will be in heat. And if you're going to use artificial insemination, it becomes disturbing. It gets disturbing when you don't know when you're not in control of these pig cycles. So you must be in control of their estrus cycle. Being in control of these estrus cycles enables you do artificial insemination at the right time. Doing artificial insemination at the right time will ensure, a higher following percentage. Like most sows will follow, most sows will conceive if you're in control of these pigs' estrus cycle. So this cycle can be induced, and usually it is better to start. Some people start at around 160 days, like we saw here. But it is also better to start a little bit earlier, like at around 20 weeks. You can start at around 20 weeks. What we call, estrus induction, inducing these guilts into heat. So in doing this, we have two options to use. The first option is the natural induction. And the second option is the artificial induction. The natural induction involves the use of what we call the Bohr exposure or exposure. And under Bohr exposure, you have the direct Bohr contact. We will be seeing this later. And you have what we call the first line Bohr contact. Now, I want to emphasize this because it must be a new thing, all new knowledge to majority pig producers in the country. And since it is new knowledge, I think I will spend some more time here. This is one of the causes of the poor, it is one of the causes of the poor achievements that we have in artificial insemination as a method of insemination. In Uganda, there is a huge problem with heat repeats. Like sows or gilts are inseminated and they come back in heat again. Usually, it is the AI supplier, the AI technician. It is the AI technician and the semen supplier to be blamed. But this sometimes comes from the farm. Farmers don't want to blame themselves. And it comes due to poor heat detection. Poor heat detection means that you are not in control of your pig's estrus cycles. So heat induction or estrus induction is highly important. On artificial induction, we administer hormones, and the hormone can be injectable or it is given orally. Some hormones, they can be injected into the bloodstream, and other hormones can be fed in feeds, through feeds, sorry. Okay, so today I will not so much talk about the artificial induction, and I have my reasons. I wrote a new book and it really explains these issues, but I again gave myself some reservations on commenting or writing a lot on artificial induction, heat induction, because number one, it is expensive, and you have to import most of the best synchronizing hormones you have to import from outside the country. We have some products on the market, but the efficiency, the effectiveness is not that much. So to get the best product, you have to import. Number two, there is an issue. There is a food safety issue, and this is a huge public concern. Most of these hormones that we use in animals are similar. They are almost the same hormones that happens in human beings. And sometimes, if they are over-administered, maybe by the time of slaughter, the residues of these hormones are still present in the meat. And these can be ingested by humans and maybe interfere with their hormonal systems and the hormonal, cause hormonal imbalances in their systems. So it is also a food safety issue. And this is why I personally don't want to so much comment on it, though it is used in other countries and it is something that somebody elsewhere will recommend for you to use. I also sometimes recommend it in the situations like the one we are importing in semen, And here is a farmer who has no idea about when their animals will be in heat. They are not in, they are completely out of control of their pig's estrus cycles. So the only way such farmers can be helped, of course, is by administration of artificial hormones. But it's not something that I would campaign for. So let's go back to what I believe in, the natural induction. And here we will talk about the bow exposure. When bow exposure is done rightly with proper record keeping, the results are always impeccable. The results are good, and you're sure that your animals will be in heat. You will totally be in control of your pig's estrus cycles. Okay, so under bow exposure, like I said, we have the direct bow contact and the first line bow contact. The direct bow contact is the most most effective way of doing bow exposure, though it is something that is so laborsome to people who are having large farms, because they need to move these boas to many guilds. And sometimes that also will require you to have more boas. But we'll be discussing this in detail, and my focus will only be on natural heat induction. So this is what we call the direct bow contact. So how do you do this? Before your gilts get into puberty, let me think that you stocked gilts of, let's say, 28 weeks, sorry, of 20 weeks. What you do, you get a mature boa. This boa must be mature, and it should be a boa with high libido. It should really be interested in mating. So you get this mature boa and introduce it to your gilts. You have to group these gilts, and these should be groups of at least 5. 5 is better, because you need this boa to interact with every gilt in the group. So you get 5 gilts, put them in a paddock, bring the boa into that particular paddock. So make sure that the boa, get to interact with each of the pig in the group. Okay. Note, these boas must be kept away from these gilts. Don't, there is a common practice. Somebody houses gilts next to boas to achieve heat induction, or to induce these gilts into heat. It is a wrong practice. It is a wrong practice that you should not do. It's a wrong practice. You might not achieve what you want to achieve, and probably that would be a discussion for another day. So you group your gilts into groups of, let's say, 5, and then bring the boa into the gilt paddock. Let the boa stay there for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Do the same thing every new day for about 20 to 30 days. Your gilts will start to come into heat. Okay? If you do it efficiently, in the first 20 days, you'll have most of your gilts coming into heat. So when they come into heat, all you have to do is to write the date on which these gilts came into heat. This is why it is important for you to start bow exposure as earlier as possible. It gives you a chance to confirm the cycles of these gilts. Okay? So every day when you introduce this boa to to the gilts, make sure you first detect the gilts for heat. Like we'll be seeing later, you should first detect these gilts for standing heat. Because if you put a bore into this, into the gilts, and there is any gilt that is on standing heat, getting out that bore without mounting the gilt will be very difficult. It will be a huge fight. So to avoid such encounters, don't introduce the bore to gilts that are on standing heat. You'll have to fight with them, with the bore, to refuse it from mounting such gilts. Okay. So this is what we call the first line. What you're seeing in the picture, all you have to do is to make the bore pass through the guilty paddocks. And then the gilts get to smell the bore, you know. But this is not, like I said, it is not an effective way of doing bore exposure, because the gilts sometimes don't get enough time to interact with this bore. And the amount of time, the libido of the bore, and the pheromones secreted by the bore does a lot in the hormonal communication in the gilt to cause heat. So you must, you will not get good results with first line bore exposure. Where you can, direct bore exposure is the best option to take. So in a nutshell, this is the first line. You have the bore here, and the gilt here. First line can be used, I'm not rubbishing it off, it can be used in heat detection. It's very good to use in heat detection, but it is not that effective when you're using it for bore exposure, most especially in gilts. Bore exposure can as well work in sows. So once your sows are weaned off, you expose them to bores, but this time don't try direct bore exposure. You can do first line, because you're sure that these sows are likely to come into heat at between 3 to 7 days. Okay, with an average of 5 days, the sows will come in heat. So bringing a bore every day after weaning, the following day after weaning, to check on these sows and try to detect heat will be very helpful. It will help you not to miss the conceptive time, but it will also improve return on heat by these sows, these dry sows. Okay, so I guess we've understood how we put our gilts, our sows into heat, and now we will look at insemination. Insemination in pigs. In pigs, we commonly use the natural insemination and artificial insemination. These are the common methods of insemination that we use in pigs. Okay, the natural and the artificial insemination. The natural insemination involves the use of a bore. So it is the bore to mount the sow, to mount the gilt for purposes of achieving pregnancy or conception. In artificial insemination, semen is collected from the bore and inserted or introduced into the reproductive tract of the female pig artificially by a human being using catheters. So the semen is collected, processed, and introduced into the reproductive tract of a pig, of a female pig, artificially by somebody, by a human being. Okay. So, of course, there are some advantages with each of these methods, but I would confess that the natural insemination is quickly fading off. And I'll give you reasons why it is fading off and why we should try out artificial insemination. Artificial insemination is the way to go, in modern pig production. So with the natural insemination, of course, you don't have to set up a semen processing laboratory where you, of course, have to invest some reasonable amount of money into purchasing the microscopes, the semen density tester, the dilution tanks, the packaging machines, blah, 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 blah. It's an investment, most especially if you're going to use this semen for commercial purposes. If you're going to sell it to other farmers, you must process it well so that it achieves the purpose when the farmers buy it. Yep. You know, it is also easier because here you have a boy, just introduced into the pen of a sow, or a gilt on heat mounted, and that's all. So there is less work, most especially if you own the boy on your farm. So with artificial insemination, there are several advantages, and the advantages of artificial insemination weigh its disadvantages. I pray that every farmer would make an effort of making sure that they do artificial insemination on their farms, most especially if you're limited to the access to improved genetics, like the situation we are suffering in the East African region. Artificial insemination enables you use superior genetics that you can't easily access as live animals. For example, we are now getting semen from choice. This semen comes from Germany. Now, how would you, if you chose to import a live boar from Germany, a live commercial boar will cost you a minimum of 8 million Uganda shillings. I think that is more than 2,000 USD. Yeah. So it costs serious money. Okay. But if you don't have enough money to import live animals, then you can use artificial insemination because you get the same genetics, but at a lower cost. So it is easier for you to use superior quality genetics when you choose artificial insemination. Some people didn't know that pigs also have reproductive tract infections, or I would say the infections of the reproductive system. Should we call them the sexually transmitted infections, like parvovirus? Some boars, if not vaccinated, can transmit parvovirus to your healthy sows, to your healthy gilts. And as you may know, parvovirus presents with abortions. So your pigs will abort. Your pigs will, if they don't abort, they will litter mummified piglets. They will get miscarriages. They will get stillbirth. So artificial insemination prevents all that. There is no physical contact between the boar and the female pig. So it is done artificially, and the chances of transmitting reproductive infections into your sows becomes minimal. But the most important advantage with artificial insemination is that you can use less boas for very many sows. One ejaculation from a boa can make about 20 doses of semen, just one ejaculation, and that can go into one sow. So imagine if you tapped it, you can inseminate. If you're doing double insemination, you can inseminate 10 sows. If you're doing a single insemination, you can inseminate about 20 sows from just one boa and just one ejaculation, which would have gone into one sow. So you can see you don't need to keep very many boas if you're going to do artificial insemination. You need a few to work on your pigs. So that is the most important advantage of using artificial insemination over natural insemination in pigs. So with natural insemination, we should take this important. Some notes for you. One mounting per week is better. I see some people overworking their boas. I will tell you from experience that most AI stations will collect semen from their boas only once a week. Okay, there are some stations that collect semen twice a week, but for you to be in good terms with your customers to achieve good results, it is better to collect semen only once a week. And each boa is targeted for about 80 doses of semen every month. And here you are with your boa serving 10 sows in a week. Yes, it will release some semen, but the sperm in it might not be enough to give you a large litter size. So you must give your boas a few sows in a week, and one sow is better. One mounting in a week is better. If you want to really go to the extreme, you should do a maximum of 2 sows in a week. And this should be distributed like 3 sows, one sow every after 3 days. Though taking a week and doing 1 sow a week is much better. If you can't easily achieve that, then using artificial insemination is the best option. One boa can be kept for 10 sows. And one boa can work on the 10 sows. But this is based on the fact that these sows do not come on heat at the same time. You read in some books, and most especially you who read articles, who search, who look for information from the internet. They will tell you that you need 10 boas for each sow, which is very correct. But this should be based on the fact that these sows do not come on heat at the same time. If these sows come on heat either on the same day or in the same week, you're going to mess up your breeding. And the boa will be interested in the mounting, by the way. It might not lose its libido if it is mature enough. It will be interested in the mounting. But you might get a lot of repeats. Okay? If you don't get repeats, then the litter sizes will be very small. So when you're matching 10 sows to one boa, you must put that into consideration. If you're using natural insemination, you must vaccinate your sows, your boas against reproductive tract infections. It's very important because these infections can cause you economical losses. So you must be very careful. We are lucky that we have these vaccines in the country. I know we have vaccines from Zoetis. So you can check out and see how to get these vaccines and have your boas and sows vaccinated. You should not borrow or lend boas and avoid use of village boas. This is important if you want to avoid the transmission of infections into your herd, and also transmission of African swine fever mainly. Because if you lend out your boa, you don't know whether it has gone to a farm that is safe or a farm that is harboring the African swine fever virus. And then you end up killing your own pigs. And when you borrow a boa, you're never sure that this boa is safe. You might bring it on your farm and end up losing your animals. Also, don't take your pigs to village boas because you don't know. So these are related to biosecurity, where effective biosecurity doesn't exist, chances of losing your investment in pigs are very high. So to avoid that, don't lend out boas, don't borrow boas, don't use village boas. If you want to do natural insemination, make sure that you keep your own boa on farm. Okay, artificial insemination. Of course, because I'm not going to so much talk about natural insemination, I'll spend a lot of time on artificial insemination, and whatever notes that we have to make about it will be in the due course of the presentation. With artificial insemination, it is done in two different ways. We have the conventional artificial insemination and the post-cervical artificial insemination. The conventional or traditional artificial insemination is what has been done over time, but now the world the world of pig farmers is slowly changing to the post-cervical artificial insemination. It is commonly called the PCAI. So when you hear people talking about the PCAI, they mean the post-cervical artificial insemination. And commonly used are these catheters. Some are foam catheters and others are spiral catheters. And these catheters, I think some of you who have done artificial insemination on your farms, you've been able to see these catheters. The AI service providers have come with these types of catheters to your farm. So the difference with these two methods, like the name suggests, the conventional or traditional AI is the usual AI. You insert the catheter into the reproductive tract of a pig, and this catheter is fixed into the cervix, and that's where you deposit the semen. Okay, so when you're inserting the catheter, for those who know how to who understand how artificial insemination is done in pigs, where you experience resistance during the process of inserting catheter is the cervix, of which it proceeds to the sperm proceeds to the oviduct or to wherever fertilization takes place. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. I'm very sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. My network jumped off, but I'm glad to be back. And I think we can proceed. Walter, am I clear now?
Loud and clear.
Great. Okay, I'm sorry about that. The network jumped off, and I can't have any control about that. But it's good that we are back again. So I was saying that the post-cervical artificial insemination aims at depositing the semen in the uterus, and this reduces on the chances of backflow, like the semen will not backflow, and if the catheter is not inserted in properly, the semen will definitely go where it is supposed to go. So you have no chances of losing any of the semen. So another issue to note about these two methods, with the conventional artificial insemination, you allow the contraction of the cervix to assist in the sucking of the semen from the semen bottle. For those who don't know how artificial insemination is done or how these things happen, maybe you're getting some brief, but again, you need to educate yourself more about how this works so that you're not deceived and so that you're able to properly do artificial insemination. In countries with developed industries, you don't need a technician to come to your farm to do artificial insemination. These are issues that can be solved by farmers themselves. It is also a biosecurity question to always have people coming from outside into your farm. So learning how to do artificial insemination by yourself is the best strategy you can ever think about. Okay, so yeah. So that is the difference between these two methods of administering artificial insemination. So let's try to understand it more. If you ever seen the reproductive system of happens is the catheter into here. The traditional artificial insemination. With the traditional artificial insemination, the catheter or the conventional, the catheter is locked into the cervix. For the PCI, the one that goes the post-cervical artificial insemination, you're like using two catheters. So you have this normal catheter, but having another catheter inside. So when it is locked into the uterus, you again push the other catheter to penetrate through the cervix and go into the uterus here, around here. So this is where semen is deposited. So there are, lower chances, in fact, no chances of backflow of this semen when that method is used. Okay, it is not something that we should be thinking about now. We can concentrate on our traditional AI, but it is better that we know, it's good that we know that even this PCAI also exists. And as we improve as we upgrade our knowledge in artificial insemination, administration, and use, we probably shift to these more reliable methods of introducing semen into the reproductive tract of a cell. Okay, so let's check estrus detection or heat detection. Where heat detection is not properly done, it is very problematic to the service of artificial insemination. And it is one reason why the practice has been failing in the country for very many years. So in Uganda, we have a challenge of poor record keeping. Farmers don't keep records, and heat induction also, like we just seen, is very minimal. In fact, I think 5 to 10% of the farms here do heat induction. So majority don't. And very few farms, again, 5 to 10%, are in control of the estrus cycles of their pigs, of all of their gilts and sows. So during estrus detection, if you have many pigs, it is always important for you to keep a boa. So this is what we call the teaser boa, okay? You don't need it for insemination, but you need it for teasing your sows when you're doing artificial insemination, You need it for helping you detect heat. Okay? You need it for helping you detect heat. And you need it for bore exposure. You need it for helping you detect heat. You need it I think today's session has been too long as well, but it's good. Let's finish it so that we don't repeat the same thing next week. Maybe the network is asking us to stop here. Okay, I'm very sorry about that. Walter, I don't know whether I'm back.
Yes, you're back. Loud and clear.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. You're back. Loud and clear. Yes.
Great. You need the teaser bar for the my internet is it is warning me from time to time. Just know that my internet has. Okay, so and when you're buying some farms, some breeding farms, cells, they sell teaser boas as well. They also sell teaser boas, and sometimes some farmers buy these teaser boas for insemination. It's not good. You might not get value for money. So during heat detection, it's good to, if you have stalls like you see in the picture, though sometimes you might not have stalls. And this also explains why you need to build to put doors on your pig pens that I would say, what should I call them, transparent or what? Like doors where that can enable you, see through through them, like you can. I don't know how to put that, but you need boas. Sorry, you need to use doors if you don't have stalls. That when the sow is inside the paddock, it can see what is taking place outside, and the pig outside can also see what is taking place in the inside, most especially if you don't have stalls. So you should acquire such doors, so that when you're going to do artificial insemination, you let a boa pass through before you even do artificial insemination. When you bring a boa into the pig pen, and this gilt-old sow happened to see it, even though it is sitting down, it will stand up if it is on heat and come closer to the boa. It will have a lot of interest in the boa. So all you have to do after seeing that the sow has interest in the boa is to check for standing heat. You have to check for standing heat. So that's why you see here, the sow must be seeking the boa. So when the boa comes, the sow must be very interested in it. And if you see your sow interested in this boa, you have to check for standing reflex. We call it the standing heat. So the pig, the sow responds to pressure on its back. When you put pressure on its back and the sow responds, it responds by standing still and by not making any noise. When you put pressure on a sow gilt that is not on standing heat, if you put pressure on its back, it will make noise, it will try to make noise, and it will try to run away. A sow gilt that is in heat will not run away and will not make any noise. It will stand still. So technically, this is what happens in picture 16 before you even do the insemination. When a sow is ready for insemination, place its back like you see picture 16. It will stand still, it will not make any noise, and even though you sat on its back or put your knee on its back, it will enjoy the activity. It will not run away, it will stand still, and then you know that this sow is actually on heat. This is very easy to observe if you're doing it in presence, in eyesight of the boa. So this is why you need your teaser boa around. And putting pressure is also important for mimicking the boa action when you're doing artificial insemination. You'll have no challenge during the practice. I see people fighting with the pigs when they are doing artificial insemination. That is too bad, and you're deceiving yourselves. What you're doing will yield nothing. If a sow gilt is on heat and it is in its conceptive time, it will allow you inseminate it without resistance. So these are some of the causes of repeated heat. I had to mention something on the insemination. We usually say that one single but right insemination is always enough. But right is very hard to explain because many farmers are not in control of their pig estrus cycles. So this is why we encourage double insemination. And usually pigs ovulate in the later hours of estrus. So doing double insemination with 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours apart, increases chances of getting a larger litter size. Okay, so these are some of the reasons that cause heat repeat or failed AI operations. They include poor heat detection. We've already looked at that. The use of old boas, we've already looked at that. Poor semen storage and transportation. This is can be a problem of the semen source. It can be a problem of the person who is transporting the semen, and it can be a problem of somebody who is administering. Galaxy A5, Walter, Galaxy A5 should exit the meeting, and maybe we should blacklist that person, not to attend these meetings again. Okay. So the poor semen storage, I've talked about that. You need proper storage. Semen is stored at temperatures of between 16 and 17. Okay, we say 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. The temperature should be around 16 to 17, but it should not go below, it should be 17. The actual temperature is 17 degrees Celsius. So it should have a minus or a plus error. And that should be around between 16 and 18 degrees Celsius. That is how both semen must be kept. So you need gadgets, you need cooler boxes that can do that. Sometimes semen is transported under ice cooler boxes. That is not the best way of transporting both semen, because both semen at 0 degrees, because ice is 0 degrees Celsius, will get spoiled. So it is better to use thermostatic boxes. There are those that can be plugged into a car charger, and there are those that can use batteries. So it is better to use such gadgets when transporting both semen. You should vaccinate your sows, because reproductive tract infections will also cause repeats in sows and goats, most especially if your sows are suffering from these reproductive issues, including mycotoxosis, which is not vaccinable, but something to really just protect your animals against. We already discussed mycotoxins and mycotoxosis. The poor gilt and sow management can also lead to repeats, most especially after insemination. And breeding after following, you need proper sow management during lactation. If sows are not well fed during lactation, they would delay coming back on heat. And if you delay weaning, still you have higher chances of your sows, giving you a few liters in a year. So you must control feeding during lactation. Your sows must be adequately fed, and you should try to practice early weaning. We now have crib feed on market. Baby Star Safe from New Science. It's a very good crib feed, and it can help you facilitate early weaning. So we should also solve issues with the estrus detection. Start estrus detection immediately after weaning. The following day after weaning, start to ensure that your sows do not miss insemination. Try to use the boa if you have one on farm. Okay. Yeah. The New Science feeds, those are the bags. That's how they look like. I've learned about some counterfeits on market. So we have the concentrates, the pig 25% and the pig 5%. And now we have the Baby Star Safe, which is a crib feed. Like I said, the crib feed can facilitate early weaning, can help you do early weaning. Weaning at 3 weeks, at 4 weeks is now easier with Baby Star Safe. These nutritional products meet very well the requirements of commercial pig feed. So don't hesitate to use them when you're keeping proper genetics. Finally, I've written a new book. It's called Pig Farm Gains, a Market Approach. I think this is the first time for me to talk about it. This book will be available by the end of this month. I think it will be available in Aristoc and wherever that the Farming Pigs for Money book is available. And you can grab yourself a copy. It will also be available online at primepok.co.ug. So once it is available, I'll be talking more about it, that it is a new publication, and it really gives details on commercial pig farming. Farming Pigs for Money is like an introduction, and Pig Farm Gain will give you an in-depth understanding of the pros and cons of commercial pig farming. We'll now go into the question session, and I'll leave this session to my co-host, Walter, to conduct. Walter, I'll be absent a little, and I'll come back and take the questions I know you're going to be moderating. But just know I'm off for like 2-3 minutes as we go into the question session. Over to you, Walter. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris, for the presentation. It's been amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear farmers and those aspiring to be pig farmers, the rules of the question and answer session, like I said, I'm going to be writing down, but I think I would begin with those raising up hands. You raise up your hand, I unmute you, and possibly you could unmute yourself, and then we could be able to take up your question and we'll answer it. I'll be taking 10 questions at a time, but since Chris is stepping out for some 2-3 minutes, I will take 20 questions and then we answer those 20. All right. Alternatively, you could type your question in the chat room, in the chat box, and then I could take up your question and we'll respond to all of them. We may not answer all your questions at this time, but the meeting is being recorded and will possibly reply to all your questions in the comment section. Thank you very much. Okay, I see Velisa. Let me first disable. Let me first do some admin controls here. Okay, let me enable to, okay, unmute. Okay. Velisa, please unmute yourself. Velisa, you there?
Yes.
Okay. Velisa, please raise your question.
Okay, I have thank you for recognizing. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, how do you know if the boar is too old or too young? At what age do you tell that the boar is too old or too young for reproduction?
All right.
And then the second one is, how much time you should allow for the natural insemination to take place before the soul gets pregnant?
Come again on that.
Okay, the second one is, how much time you should allow natural insemination to know that the soul.
Okay. Is that all that you heard? All right. Okay. We're going to get back to you on that. 2 questions from you, Velisa. We'll give you 2 responses for that. Okay. You could please mute. Let me take another one. Okay, Velisa has given us his question. Who else? Tiviasa John Bosco. Tiviasa John Bosco, are you there? Now you please unmute yourself and give us your questions.
Okay. I thank Chris for that good presentation. My question goes to semen, getting good semen. My question is, since the semen which is on market is for making commercial hard, because there's PIC semen and there is also Duloc. Is it possible to use that Duloc, like when you inseminate it to a gilt and it gives birth, and you use those offspring and you get another Duloc to upgrade that to get parent stock? Is it possible? Because it is difficult these days to get like breeding gilt semen, like breeding boas. That semen is not seen on the market. Yes, I was just inquiring that.
Okay. Basically, your question, if I may understand you right, you're asking whether the semen that is available on the market, PIC and okay, many players on the market now, whether you could use that semen for reproduction with the motive of getting parent stock, right?
Yes. That's my question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Your question has been noted. Okay, all right. Okay, let me see. Please, members, you could raise up your hands if you want to give your question. If I can go to those in the chat room. Okay. Sialuja George. Mr. Sialuja George, please give us your questions. Unmute yourself and give us your questions.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Yes, you.
Just wanted to find out the cost of the book.
I'm seeing
35,000. Is it Ugandan shilling or what? I don't know what.
This is Uganda shillings. It's Uganda shillings.
Oh, converted to Zambian kwacha, it could be how much?
Let me see. What is the? I need to confirm the relationship. I need to confirm the equivalent of 1 Zambia shilling is equivalent to how much Uganda shillings. But online can give us that. If you go online and ask a currency conversion, you could find out the equivalent of a Zambian shilling to a Uganda shilling.
Okay.
I'm not so sure of that, but you could possibly, when Chris comes back, you would be able to, he can also coordinate with you. His numbers will be shared, and then you could be able to he would export to you, and maybe through these Speed Express deliveries.
Okay, sir.
All right, thank you.
I am back, Walter. I am back.
Who is this? I'm still taking on
This
questions.
is Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris. Okay.
Yep.
I'm still taking up questions. Okay, so far I've received 3. I'm still getting until 10. Then we can answer those. Okay. Sembatia, Mr. Sembatia Willie.
Excuse me, Walter. I think we can do maybe like 10 because time has really gone. We do 10 in the room and do some from Facebook and then maybe like 5 and conclude.
Yeah, I appreciate in the interest of time. Okay, without wasting time, Sembatia Willie. Mr. Sembatia Willie, unmute yourself and give us your question, please.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. This is my first time to join this meeting. I am glad that I have learned something. I would like to inquire something from you people. I want to join this industry, but I don't know where to start from, but I am interested to start this industry. I'm inquiring if it is possible to share with me the phone numbers of the people who can train me and train my people who are going to work for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll revert that. We'll revert on that. Okay. Isaac Ayet, Mr. Isaac Ayet. Can you
Okay,
please
thank
raise your
you.
questions? Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Thanks so much for the presentation. It was wonderful. However, I've been up and down. My network has not been good. And as I talk now, I've moved a bit side of the road, and that's why I can now listen well. So my question is simple. I was inquiring, how much feed do I have to give my mature pig? They call them the sow, the pregnant one. So how much should I be giving per day? Then how much should I be giving like the male pig, the boar? So I would like you to give me some rough estimate thereof. And then the normal pigs, how much should I be feeding them, the mature ones? Those are the ones I have at the moment. Then I would also like to give me some tips on how can I care for the pregnant sow, the one which is almost, I think, 3 months now.
How can you?
Thank you. How can I care for it? How can I care for it? What should I do that extra?
For the pregnant
Other
sow.
than just feeding.
For the pregnant sow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Your question has been taken up.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. Who is raising up their hand? Okay. I think let me pick some from the chat room. In the chat room, teaser boy is necessary for detection. This is Sylvester. Could be higher compared to this right place. What do you suggest? Let me see which question is this. Safari Sylvester. You're asking, teaser boy is necessary for detection, but economic management could be higher compared to the role it plays. What's your suggestion? Okay, this is by Safari. Okay, picking one more question from the chat room, then we answer this. Okay. The chat room. Thank you for the presentation. Fred Ovola, how often are you likely to stock parent stock from Germany if we miss the initial order in November, as some is still not fully ready? I think Chris answered this. In October, there will be another batch come. Okay, if you miss out this, there will be sequential batches, and this will be announced. Okay. Jumbo, asking, when are these educative Zoom meetings? We've been doing this every Saturday from 7 to 8:30 at most. Okay. Let me see. Excellent presentation. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing that much. It is just thank you. Okay. Dr. Ambrosio asking, does the huge size of male pigs have a negative effect on its performance when serving sows? Okay. We're going to answer this. Dr. Ambrosio. Okay. Okay, taking one more question, and then we answer this and we switch. Sorry for the time has gone too much, and we've lost a lot of time. We've eaten a lot of time, but don't you worry, it's all for the better. Okay, Chris, I don't have much questions, really. Most of them are appreciations on the chat. Those that had raised their hands, I've taken them. So I think we can answer this. I have written them all. I've written them down. So I'm going to read them for you because I was taking some notes.
Okay,
Mr. Chris, are you there? Okay. Now we start with the number one. Mr. Velisa, Velisa was asking, how do you know whether the boar is too old or too young for reproduction? That was question one. The second question was, if I'm too fast, you let me know. How much time should you should allow to know that the sow is pregnant? Okay, knowing that the sow is pregnant after, I think, insemination, if I may relate it to the topic of today. Then,
just a moment. How do you know that the boar is
the sow is now pregnant?
No, the first question
after
was,
insemination. The first question was, how would you know whether the boar is too old or too young for reproduction?
Is too old or too young? Well, let me you read as I answer. You read
okay. Okay, you can answer those. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I have the first question. Just to save time, I'll listen and then give my comment. On how do you tell that the boy is too old for service? Usually, you shouldn't keep a boar beyond 4 years on farm. But by the time it reaches 4 years, sometimes if you didn't properly manage its nutrition, it is too huge. It is too huge. So on some farms, there is a cutoff age, and that is between 2.5 to 3 years. So boars will be culled at 2.5 to 3 years, at around that age. But it can go up to 4 years.
Okay. The second question was, how much time should you allow? How much time should you allow to know that the sow is pregnant? I think after insemination.
The cycle of estrus is between 18 to 22 days. So when you inseminate your sow, but averages are 21 days. When you inseminate your sow, you have to check for heat at between 18 to 22 days. If that sow doesn't come back on heat again, it means that it is pregnant. But where you have an ultrasound, you can go ahead later after like 4 weeks and check check for pregnancy to fully establish whether it is gestating or not. But usually if it misses its cycle, then there are higher chances that it is pregnant.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Tibiasa John Bosco asked that, is it possible to use the semen available on the market to enable reproduction for parent stock?
No, but because we still have a very huge genetics question, whatever you can do to come up with breed lines that are better, that are more superior than what you're keeping, is advisable. So if you think what you're doing makes your genetics more better than what you're keeping, I encourage you to go on. But you can't get the right parent animals using semen available locally. I think it's the person who mentioned about the PIC semen and the Duloc semen.
Yes, correct. He's the one.
Probably. Yeah, you should get to know that PIC is not distributing semen here. They have no Bostad here, and I think the company that was doing closed the business for semen. I believe what you can get here is Duloc semen, and that Duloc is used as a commercial boar. So that semen is basically for helping you produce pigs for slaughter. But like I said, if you're doing anything that you think will make your production, your performance, the performance of your farm better, please go ahead and do it. If you can import from choice, go ahead and import from choice. If there is any alternative on market that you think it can make your breed lines better, please go after it.
Right. Thank you, Chris. And Mr. George asked his question, and I think I've responded to this. He was, anyway, for the recap, he said that he was asking, and he seems to be, I didn't get the country where he is, but he was asking about the cost of the book. It was 35,000 Uganda shillings in, so he didn't know whether it was UGX, it was which currency, and how much that would be in Zambia. So he's from Zambia, yes, I remember.
Okay. Okay, this is basically 10 USDs, $10. For people outside Uganda, the book will be available online. I guess by the start of next month. So you can pay using your credit card and other means for those who are in East Africa. But it will be available online, and it is $10. It is $10.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sembatia Willie asked a question, and I think he's an aspiring farmer. He said that I'm interested in starting a piggery project, but I would like to know what to do, how to start, and some bit of like more or less consultation. Though I didn't get his number, but he was interested in piggery project. I think he has been inspired by some guidance. Sorry about that. Okay. There was this. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Now you can go ahead. Let's answer what.
Okay. I just was asking, how much feed do I have to give my pigs per day? And that cuts across boas, sows, gilts, and piglets. And then how can I care for my pregnant sow? Those were the two questions.
But these are issues that we've already discussed, I think.
Yeah.
I'll request him to go back to go to YouTube under my channel, or look for my page on Facebook and try to revisit these videos, and because that will take us a lot of time, and yet we really don't have time.
Sure, I agree with you. And then Safari asked, the teaser bore is necessary for heat detection, but the economic management could be higher compared to the role it plays in production. What do you suggest?
Yeah, he is right. If you have very few sows, you should just play with being smart with heat detection. You have a few sows, you don't need to keep teaser bores. It will really be expensive because you have to maintain this bore. And that increases your cost of producing piglets for fattening. So if you have a few sows, 10 below, better to be smart with record keeping and heat detection.
All right. Thank
you
very much.
Need it at the beginning to induce your gilts into heat, then you don't need it later.
All right, thank you very much. Then last but not least, Mr. Edward asked a question: how long can you keep semen?
It depends on the type of extender used. Horse semen is commonly used fresh, and the technology for frozen semen is also working, but the effectiveness is still low here in Africa. So it is preferably used fresh, and it is only extended by addition of ball semen extenders. And the time frame of the extender determines the lifespan of the semen. Some extenders will run for 5 days, others 7 days, others 10 days. So it depends. If the extender is for 10 days, then the semen will stay okay for 10 days. But viability goes on decreasing as it draws closer to its expiration.
All right. The other question, the last question was from Dr. Abroseo, who asked that, does the huge size of male pigs have a negative effect on its performance when serving sows? I think this was answered, but you could answer it again.
Yeah, but definitely, we just talked about that. It will injure the sows if they are not big enough. And because it is heavy, you know, when the boa is mounting, there is a weight places its front legs on the body of the sow. And if you've seen, there are some sows that come out with wounds, fresh wounds on their bodies. So having it too heavy is not good. And you can't even match it with your gilts, because if the gilts are not heavy enough, they will be scared of this monster. So you have to manage its weight.
Okay, so that's what we had in the classroom. Possibly we could switch to a few questions from Facebook and maybe on the YouTube channel.
Okay, please. I can see very many other hands on.
Oh yeah, these have come up right. Yes, one. And then the time
But let's
really...
conclude a few from Facebook. Maybe you give 1-2 people from the class to ask, and then we can close.
Okay, all right.
From Facebook, I'll take a few. Somebody asked whether sprinkling urine on gilts and sows as a way of inducing heat is effective. Please don't go for this, sprinkling boar urine on gilts and sows. Don't do this, please. It's better to do boar exposure. It's better to do boar exposure for you to have better results. How will you know when a sow is on heat? The simplest ways, which I guess you knew already, the reddening of the vulva, the restlessness, the vocalization, what else? The release of mucus from the vulva, the mounting of cell groupments. Those are things that we even learn from school. But the most important is the attraction of this sow, all gilt, to the boa, and the final one, which we call the heat detection test, is the response to pressure put on its back. Call it the standing reflex or the standing heat. How do you know if, yeah, I've answered that. I think that's all I'll take from these social media platforms. I don't know if you want to give 1-2 people who are in the classroom.
Yes.
A few questions, then we can close.
Okay, I'll give one chance to Okay, let's close at exactly 9:40. Mr. Astonix Mata, could you please unmute yourself and give us your question?
Good evening, Mr. Mlindo, and thanks for the presentation, sir.
You're welcome.
I've got a few questions here. I would like you to help me in. They are a little bit like 4 or 5. My first question goes like this, sir.
We can hear you. Please go on.
I want to talk about the choice genetic semen. I would like to know in the future use, do you have like any plans like if you're exporting, you're getting like the semen from abroad because it's abroad? Is there any plan like creating any branch in Uganda so that we can be getting it from there? Because for the future use, some of the people who want to start like the project of recent and they would like to use that semen in the future. Is there any plan like to construct any branch in Uganda so that people can go there and then attain that semen? Because choice genetic semen seems to be the best. Can I go on for the next question?
Yes, please go on. We shall answer to once.
The next question is my one of my pigs, it conceived on the 12th of April. If you calculate properly, it was supposed to give birth on the 4th of August, but unfortunately it did not. It gave birth on the 19th of this month. Leaving all factors constant, proper management, everything was at maximum. So I would like you to tell me what caused the delay in the following relay. Might be there any issue because the management was better, everything was okay, but it delayed
When
like
was
extra.
When was
it was served on
12th of when?
12th of April.
Okay.
And it was supposed to deliver on 4th, or maximum it was supposed to deliver on 7th, but it delivered on 19th. Extra like 2 weeks, which is like 14 to 15 days. And scientifically, if it had delayed, it was supposed that this would live after 21 days, but only after like 15 days. Just I'm wondering, maybe there might be something, or that's why I would like you to give me more. Can I go on with that question?
Yes, please. Your last question.
The next is about the concentrate, sir. I would like to ask about the pig 5% concentrate, because according to the measurements as how you told us, I am like a farmer. I plant my own maize, so I would like to get the real maize from my garden. I take the milling machine and I use it like as maize without maize bran. Mixtures still remain the same, or I'll need to add it more. Then about another question is about the market. Or there are so many.
I think let's take these 3. We will have another question session later. It's too late.
Okay. Yes, we had said we shall stop at 9:40. Give us this 1 minute to answer the questions.
Okay. There are quite many.
The second last is about the markets now.
There are quite many questions. Let's
4 questions you've given us. May we answer those? Thank you very much, Mr. Astongs. We shall keep in touch, nevertheless. But in the interest of time, let's answer this one. Okay. Next weekend we are on. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay, I'll be available.
Okay, please. So on the plan by Choice Genetics to produce its products locally, you know, these genetic companies work with interested parties. Even though you checked, even in South Africa, where you see PIC, Top Pigs, Danbred, blah, blah, they are working with local partners. So even here, we are trying to look around to see people who are interested, but also having potential to set up production units here. We haven't, we are doing some work, but it hasn't yielded. So probably such will happen in the future. And for the sow that was served on the 12th and found on the 19th of August, I would imagine that you used natural insemination, and sometimes record keeping becomes a challenge. You know, It might not be the sow laying to farrow, but the record keeping problem. I would think that might have been the challenge. So I don't know whether it is the challenge, but it might have been the challenge. So on the use of maize only when feeding with pig 5%, it works, but you really need some guidance because maize bran is added in these diets for two main reasons. One is to provide for fiber in the diets for the reproductive herd, and also diluting the energy level so that most especially the reproductive herd do not ingest in a lot of energy that will make them less productive. So we will need to discuss more. We can be talking via WhatsApp. That MTN number is my WhatsApp number. Don't worry if I delay a bit to reply, I'll definitely reply. So we can talk and see how you can go about it, but it is possible. And we have formulas that you can use to go about this. Otherwise, I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for taking part in this coaching session. Thanks to you who managed to join us in Zoom. And thanks to friends who joined us from social media. I thank you very much, Walter, and over to you to give closing remarks and the closing of this coaching session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has endeavored to attend this session. Your attendance enables us to know what farmers actually are facing, and then we prepare accordingly to bring faster solutions through these trainings. We really appreciate everyone, and I would like to wish you all the best. Let's keep in touch. Next weekend we are on, and have a blessed day, a blessed evening for those in Uganda, and good morning for those in the US and overseas. Thank you very much.